Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Biking Routes to Texas. And I know it's been a while. Hopefully, you guys are all doing well, enjoying your holiday plans. So, I apologize for the delay. I kind of lost my camera, and it's been just busy with other things. Anyway, welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about a really cool little bike. I have to use my verbiage for some reasons I won't get into, but yeah, so I'm going to use, we'll call them bikes for little shredders. So yeah, not the big bikes, the smaller bikes. And so we're going to talk about a really cool small bike today. All right, so today we are talking about a little Norco. This is going to be the Norco Fluid FS 2.1 20-inch bike. So basically, it's a miniature of the full-size Fluid, which is pretty cool. All right, so I'm gonna go get it built up, and then we'll go over the specs and features and see why this bike is so rad. So finally got the bike built. It took a little bit longer than expected, ran into a few complications. So I will say before we get into the bike that this bike isn't for everyone, obviously. Some people physically can't even fit on it, but for those that can fit on it, you can have fun on a much less expensive bike. So I don't want you to think that, hey, you have to have this particular bike. But for those that have the means and want to buy this kind of bike, when I was around this age, I was probably on hand-me-downs wanting to get a BMX race bike, and instead my parents bought me a Huffy, which, yeah, I didn't like that bike, but it was a bike, and it got me around the neighborhood for a few more years until my parents could get me an actual mountain bike. All right, so here it is. Oh, wait, just kidding. Here it is. It's a little bit smaller size, as you can see, but yeah, look at this thing. The little Norco Fluid 20-inch full suspension. Yes, that's full suspension, so shock in the back, air fork, front and rear. We'll get into all the specs, dropper post, clutch derailleur, hydraulic disc brakes. This thing is decked out. Basically, yeah, it's a miniature Norco Fluid with a little bit nicer fork in the front. But so this is the 2021. You may be wondering, why is it 2021? Well, with COVID and manufacturing issues, a lot of these bikes ended up getting pushed back. So they ended up getting delivered to a lot of the factories. I've seen it with other brands as well. So they still have this one. Do they have a new one coming out? Probably in the works, but I don't know all the specifics. But for now, this is the 2021. It comes in two trims. The FS2, which is on sale for $1,500, doesn't come with a dropper post and a few other changes. And then this is the FS1, which is the higher trim. So I will say before we get into the specs, this is a 20-inch designed for around 7 to 10 years old is what they say. I would probably argue you could get your 5-year-old on this, since that's usually when we recommend people go to 20-inch. But yeah, 7 to 10 is what Norco says. Less than 90 pounds is what they recommend. So, and this is the FS1 for $2,024. So first, let's talk about this frame, which looks cool in the orange. If you don't like the orange, the lower trim has the blue. Yeah, even on this little guy, you have nice smooth welds, which gives it almost the carbon look, which is pretty neat. You have the linkage down there, and I will say, so this is boost spacing, believe it or not. So 148 millimeters of spacing in the back, and you have 110 millimeter spacing up front. We'll talk about the suspension in a little bit. But yeah, they did a great job with this frame. You have, internal cable routing, tapered head tube, of course. You got to have that strength for when the little shredders are flying down Whistler A-line. Yeah, so fit and finish. Very nice on the frame. Nice little details. You have the little Canadian maple leaf in the back. No frame protection over here, so be careful. So as far as geometry, yeah, you have a 64-degree, very slack head angle, especially for a little shredder bike, and 75-degree seat tube angle, so they can still climb. Yeah, so you have a nice modern miniature full suspension frame. I'm going to say it multiple times, but I'm just blown away that they could build like this bike, because you may not know, it's harder than you think to build smaller bikes like this. just because of volume and yeah, just getting all the things to work and get the parts made. There just aren't a lot of parts available or aftermarket even for smaller bikes like this. So the fact they're able to build this is pretty cool. All right, so let's start with the suspension. Up front, you have 120 millimeters, the Manitou Machete J unit. You have compression here to go towards the right. You also have rebound control under here. So you have 110 millimeter through axle boost. Since the little shredders don't have a lot of weight, having a nice quality air fork will allow them to actually have suspension, which is nice as they go through jumps and roll over things. So suspension in the back, you have 100 millimeters of travel and you get a Fox float. You do have a 3-position sensor as well, which is nice for full open, trail, or locked out or firm. So you have different positions, rebound control as well. So yeah, it's a nice shock. And yeah, so this shock does have a light tune. I would take some pressure out of this. It's pretty stiff for most people. Let's talk about the drivetrain. You have these little miniature cranks. These are Samox 2-piece cranks, a narrow wide. This is 140 millimeters, so they got the size nice and short. So hopefully not too many pedal strikes, which sometimes is a challenge, getting short enough cranks for the littles. And in the back, you have a Sunrace 1136 tooth cassette, and that's with the SRAM GX 10-speed. And this is a short cage, which you need it short because you don't have, as you can see, very much clearance here. If you went with like a Eagle 12-speed, you'd be dragging on the ground there. So has a clutch, should be nice and stiff for handling jumps. And when they do crash, which is usually bound to happen, or the bike gets dropped somehow, you do have a UDH hanger, which is very nice to see. I will say, yeah, unfortunately, I actually have a customer's bike in here that they busted their hanger on a nuke proof, and we cannot find that stinking hanger anywhere. And we're trying to find it overseas, but nice to see UDH should be able to find one fairly easily if they end up smashing it and breaking it. For your shifter, you get a nice GX shifter, which feels good. I like the GX shifters and should be easy for their little fingers to push, and you get nice crisp action. And your dropper post, you get a little 80 millimeter dropper, which is perfect for this bike. And the fact that you're able, it has such a straight seat tube angle that you're able to drop it all the way down, which is nice. So you can get the extension that you need with this little tiny SDG Fly Junior saddle, which this thing is tiny, but it's perfect. It's really cool. Just has a generic dropper lever, but it feels pretty light, so it's not bad. I've had these levers on other bikes, which I'm not a huge fan of these levers, but this one actually feels pretty light. For the cockpit, you have 640 millimeter bars with 25 millimeter rise. One issue I did run into, which I'm gonna have to talk to Norco about, is this clamp. So they sent a 22 mil clamp for the dropper lever, but this is actually like 18 and something, so it's really narrow. So I had to put some little rubber thing to kind of allow it to be able to tighten on there, because without it I couldn't tighten it. SDG Slater handlebars, which I like the little shred in good company. So that's cool. Nice little cockpit setup. And I like the tiny little 35 millimeter stem, and you get the Norco top cap with the maple leaf, which is a nice touch. For grips, you have, for the small hands, little SDG lock-on grips. All right, so what brakes do we have here? We have the SRAM Level T hydraulic brakes, which should be good for, hopefully okay for small fingers here. Up front, you have a 160 millimeter rotor, 2-piston caliper, and in the back, 160 rotor as well with the 2-piston. So should be plenty of stopping power to stop this little sled. And for wheels, you have these Sun Ringle rims and hubs. As I stated before, you have 12 by 148 through axle. These are tubeless ready rims. And so 148 spacing in the back, 110 up front, same hub and rim obviously up front. And for tires, you have these Schwalbe Smart Sams, 20 by 2.35. I don't know if these are tubeless ready tires. I'd have to pop it off the bead to see. I don't know how many people are going to go tubeless anyway on this, but if you are, may have to double check to make sure these are tubeless ready tires. All right, I think I've covered everything. Let me know what you guys think of this little mini-me fluid. Would you get it for the little shredder in your life, or is it overkill? For most people, I'm sure it's overkill unless you live in a mountainous or Whistler or something, but hey, why not? If you get this for your little shredder in your life and yeah, he doesn't improve and become a World Cup athlete, then he has no excuse, right? Because they're building such awesome bikes for the littles now, I think the level and skill of today's riders is just going to improve and improve. Oh, before I forget, I forgot to mention how much this sucker weighs, because I do get that question quite a bit. So this one without pedals weighs 25.45 pounds on my scale. So that's without pedals. And I also forgot to mention, most bikes come with like no pedals or really junky pedals. These are actually pretty cool. These little SDG, they have little plastic cleat things, and they actually look decent. It's hard to find good small pedals for smaller bikes, so I think they did a good job with these SDGs. All right, guys, I gotta bend down because it's so small, but what do you guys think of this little Norco Fluid? I think it's pretty cool. I wish I had one when I was that age, as probably many of you as well. Are you gonna order one for the little person in your life, or are you gonna tell them to pound sand and you're getting them a Walmart bike? All right, guys, well, that's going to end today's video on the Norco Fluid 20. Let me know if you have any questions or comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. I hope you guys are doing well. We'll see you out on the trails. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.